Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the Week 7 Weekend Update, Injury Report, Rankings, Underdog Plays, London Update, and DraftKings Ownership. In case you missed out on the show we did a little bit earlier in this week, we recorded it earlier, so I'll have everything updated on this show. And then once again on Saturday evening in the fresh newsletter. If you're looking for the injury report, I'll put that down in the description for right now, but the update will come and be updated again on Sunday morning in the newsletter link as well, which I'll have next to it once it is released. So go sub to that, by the way, on the Mayo Media Substack, okay? Smash the like while you're here, and if you want to get into a draw for $500 cash, it's easy. Just subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and Spotify, leave a 5-star review, boom, you're in the draw twice. And if you want to make it even easier on yourself, just sub to this channel, Mayo Media Network on YouTube, all right? All of the info is in the description if you're looking for updated rankings, injury report, all that fun stuff. And once again, Saturday evening is when the newsletter drop will come for all of the updated info. A reminder, there's a London game and 2 Monday Night Football games, so anyone who's playing in the Monday night games, the Saturday practice is the most important practice for them. So someone like Mike Evans right now has not practiced this week. Even if he doesn't practice on Saturday, he's probably still going to play anyway, but that's just throwing it out there, okay? Let's get to the London games and start off with the injury report there. Travis Etienne is a game-time decision. I don't think he's going to play. He might play. I don't think he's going to end up going here. They called him week to week earlier, but he did get limited practices in so far this week. So as it stands right now, I have him out of the rankings. I have Tank Bigsby at number 25 at running back and Dearness Johnson at number 44 at running back. If ETN goes, you probably do not want to play him. A, he's stunk to begin with. B, the risk for re-aggravation of this injury, be it his shoulder or his hamstring, which he's dealing with right now, is probably not all that good. I would lower Bigsby just a little bit because the overall opportunity would go down. So he'd go from 25 to 30-ish. So he'd still be a fringe running back, 3, a flex play if you needed him. But we did see a week ago that even when ETN wasn't in the game, that Dearness Johnson kind of took over that role, that it wasn't just an onslaught of Tank Bigsby. However, he probably would get the more valuable touches near the goal line, which would still make him in that flex fringe play. On the New England side of the ball, Drake Maye went for an MRI with his knee. He's still going to start. He's going to be fine. But it's Ramondre Stevenson that we're the most concerned about. He's been trending towards playing all week. I put him back into the rankings. He is at number 23 at running back, and that has bumped down Antonio Gibson, who's now at number 35 in the running back rankings, which brings us to the underdog plays for the London game. If you want to get a head start on everything, good news, if you're a first-time player and you use code Mayo at Underdog right now, you will get an Aaron Rodgers free pick for Sunday Night Football. That's great. You can add it on to the one that I'm throwing out here right now, and you probably have a little bit more money in your account because, boom, we got the winner for Thursday Night Football with the Bo Nix higher than 24.5 rushing yards and Spencer Rattler, the Rattler, higher than 22.5 rushing yards. So for the Sunday morning game from Wembley Stadium, by the way, different stadium than the past 2 weeks that we've seen in London, we're going right back to those quarterback rushing hires. So Drake Maye higher than 24.5 rushing yards, Ramondre Stevenson. If he's healthy, he should smash this 44.5 higher rushing yardage. If he gets hurt or if he doesn't play, it'll be voided, so we wouldn't worry about that. But if he gets hurt inside the game, well, that's not going to be great. If he doesn't make it to the second half, Underdog will give you the void on it anyway, so you might as well go with the higher. Well, this number is artificially low against a terrible Jacksonville defense. And then on the other side of the ball to fill it out, we do have Evan Ingram higher than 47.5 receiving yards. I doubt he's going to be used as extensively as he was a week ago, but even on 5 catches, he should be able to clear this 47.5 number. We know that ADOT is always going to be low, but Christian Gonzalez is unlikely to be covering him in this game, and we saw where T-Law wants to go when he's in a pinch. It is to Evan Ingram. Running back injury report for week number 7. Jonathan Taylor is out, so Trey Sermon is back in. He did miss Wednesday's practice. That's happened 2 weeks in a row. He is going to be the starter against Miami as favorites. Now, this is an important distinction. Last week, there was a lot of catch-up, even against Tennessee, that the Colts were catching up most of that game. They ended up winning. That's why we saw Goodson used as much as we did. If they can get out in front in this game, which the spread would dictate that it would mean more Sermon than Goodson. So Sermon's not a great play, but running back number 26 in the rankings. That's one spot behind Tank Bigsby if ETN doesn't play. Goodson is at running back number 39 for me. On Tennessee, Tajah Spears is out against the Bills, so Pollard is running back number 11, a low-end number 1, a must-start guy in week number 7. Nick Chubb is in with his knee injury, presumably, not quite sure about the workload that he's going to get as of yet. Jerome Ford is out in the Browns backfield. No word on Nyheim Hines as of yet, but you probably don't need to concern yourself with Nyheim Hines. He's probably just going to play special teams upon his return. I have Chubb at running back number 32. I really hope he smashes this and comes out with a huge game. I just really worry inserting this guy coming off a year being missed and maybe not up to complete full speed yet with a full workload. They might try to get him a touchdown, but anyone who's ever owned Nick Chubb has known they love trying to force him into the end zone, and it never really works out that well. And now we're with a Browns team that so rarely gets in the red zone that unless Chubb is doing it from distance with ample opportunity, the fantasy upside just isn't there. That's why I have him so much lower. Lucky Pierre Strong comes in at number 43 in the running back rankings, as I assume he's going to be the one who's working the most out of the pass-catching backfield for the Browns this week. Cordell Patterson is out for Sunday Night Football. Warren and Najee are both in. Najee over Warren, with Russell Wilson starting at quarterback, presumably. Ray Davis is a game-time decision for the Bills. James Cook has been elevated off the injury report, so James Cook elevates himself back up to running back number 16 this week. Ray Davis, I do still have in at running back number 38. If he doesn't play, Ty Johnson would take his spot at running back number 38 if you were trying to grind down in deeper leagues and looking for a running back who is completely available to go pick up if you are in a pinch. Hopefully, you're not quite in that pinch. Zamir White is leaning towards playing in this game as big underdogs at the LA Rams. I have Madison above him, but Madison gets a bump down because of the split timeshare. Madison is running back number 34. White is running back number 41. Hopefully, you got better options than the Raiders backfield. Devin Singletary expected to be in against the Eagles as 3.5-point dogs at home. I have him at running back number 37, not 17, 37 this week, and Tyrone Tracy at running back number 28. All reports indicate that Tracy's going to see an uptick in terms of the split with Singletary now that he's proven himself the past 2 weeks as the lead guy in the Giants backfield and been tremendous in the receiving game. Both lack the upside because of the split touches they're going to have and the Giants offense, especially with Malik Neighbors back, that there might just be more throwing towards him. But I would play Tracy over Singletary. I try to avoid if necessary, but I do think that the goal line touches will go to Tracy. So Tracy above Singletary for week number 7. Jordan Mason has been taken off the injury report, although he did not sustain any contact during practice this week. His underdog number is really low for the higher in rushing yards. If you think that he can get through this game and not get re-injured, that is an absolute smash spot to add to any sort of entry on Underdog. Code Mayo, by the way. Just go sign up, use the Aaron Rodgers free pick, then use Jordan Mason if you want to get crafty with everything. But I have him at running back number 15 this week because I am somewhat terrified that he's going to take one hit and have to leave the game. But obviously, if that doesn't happen, he'd probably be listed as a top 5 running back against Kansas City, although it's a pretty difficult-ish matchup. They are favorites in this game still at home against the Chiefs, but running back 15 means you're going to play him. I'm going to be, listen, he's like my main running back this week. I'm still going to be playing him, but I do worry a little bit when it comes to overall upside because of that injury risk. Isaac Guerrero, I have down at running back number 50. Even if Mason gets hurt, the reason Guerrero was so low is that we saw Juszczyk handle some goal line work. Guerrero only looked good on one of his carries, and he split with Patrick Taylor, and they'd probably end up using Debo out of the backfield anyway. There is just no upside to be had unless he breaks off a 70-yard run for a touchdown, which I hear is pretty unlikely for most NFL running back. So it's Mason or bust in the San Francisco backfield this week. Devin Achane is in coming off his concussion in the bye week. He's at running back number 20 against the Colts. Mostert is at running back number 33. So Achane, decent start, maybe not as great as we were all hoping. Hopefully this offense looks a little bit better coming off the bye week and Snoop Huntley finally getting himself ingrained in this offense, but They're still dogs against the Colts, so we'll see how this goes. Rachaad White is leaning in for Monday Night Football, and Todd Bowles said that Sean Tucker is going to get himself involved more into this three-back rotation. So bad news for everyone. And they are underdogs in this game to the Ravens. So I have Bucky Irving the highest at running back number 24, because he'll probably still handle the goal line touches. We saw Sean Tucker do a ton of damage both in garbage time, but through the receiving game last week against the Saints as well. I mean, that's the Rachaad White role, is the receiving game. So I would expect Bucky Irving's role to not change as much, where he'll probably end up with double-digit carries on the ground and the goal line work, but the split between Tucker and White could end up rearing its ugly head, rendering both of them inert, potentially, or just managing Tucker back to the end, or White back to the end. I think that they'll give White a shot here, even coming off the injury, to regain his role as the pass-catching back. So I have him at running back number 27 in a potential catch-up spot against the Ravens, and Tucker at running back number 46. There's a chance that none of these guys are any good against a pretty good Ravens run defense, but we'll wait and see. Bucky Irving would be my preferred start of this bunch. Brian Robinson is leaning in against the Carolina Panthers in an absolute smash matchup, but I just don't know how much work he's going to get. So I have Brian Robinson as a start, but at running back number 17 in the rankings. Austin Eckler at running back number 29. Jeremy McNichols way down. However, if Brian Robinson was to miss this game, I would elevate Jeremy McNichols almost right around where Brian Robinson is at, because I would expect him to split work with Eckler like we saw last week. The valuable touches, those goal line touches, are probably going to swing 66-33 in favor of Jeremy McNichols against a defense that can't stop anyone on the ground. So, Jeremy McNichols as a last-ditch effort play, if you need him, if Brian Robinson sits, becomes pretty viable, in my opinion at least. Jonathan Brooks will not be playing this week. He's expected back week 9 for the Panthers, so keep running out Chuba Hubbard in this spot. And Gus Edwards was placed on injured reserve. J.K. Dobbins, as long as he remains healthy, is in the running back 1 conversation, regardless of opponent. One more quick note at running back. Aaron Jones is trending towards playing with his groin injury against the Lions this week in the Vikings backfield. I have him at running back number 18. Just be wary about him, because the chance for re-aggravation is a lot higher for him than it is for many other of the running backs. This groin injury could pop up out of nowhere, as we saw in that London game. He has had the bye week to recover, but they might still sit him down at the last second. Just be wary of that situation and keep an eye out on it. If not him, Ty Chandler would vault up to running back number 21, one spot behind Devin Achane in the rankings for week number 7. If Jones plays, you probably want nothing to do with Ty Chandler. All right? Wide receiver injury report. Robert Woods joins Nico Collins as being out. He is not on injured reserve, but he is not going to be playing this week against the Packers. I'd expect to see more Xavier Hutchinson used in a game where they're not just playing from 14 points up the entire time. Maybe they will against the Packers, but in a neutral game script, with this being a 2.5-point spread, I expect him to run a few more routes. Clearly not a must start by any stretch of the imagination. He's probably 4th on the receiving pecking order behind Diggs and Dell, then Schultz, then Hutchinson, but probably a bit more run than the 50% snap share that he saw a week ago. Juwan Jennings is out in this game against the Chiefs for the 49ers, but Ricky Purcell, coming off being shot, is going to be active for this game. Between him and Brian Robinson getting shot the last 2 years, they've missed a combined 10 games. Incredible doctors out there. These guys, these high-end athletes, they recover pretty quickly. Cooper Kupp is a game-time decision. I've taken him out of the rankings, because you're going to have to wait around to the late slate of games anyway. If you have Jordan Whittington, then maybe you can wait it out for Kupp. But even if Kupp plays, they play again on a quick turnaround on Thursday night. I'm guessing that's when we see the return of Cooper Kupp, because playing him on a limited snap basis just to have him play limited snaps again on Thursday doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So let's just gonna not go that route with it, and we'll end up doing all right. Okay, so no Cooper Kupp this week. Hopefully, if I end up looking like an idiot, well, wouldn't be the first time. Tutu Atwell is still my preferred play of any of the Rams receivers. He's inside the top 25. That's a spot ahead of Amari Cooper and a spot behind a banged-up Mike Evans, if you were wondering. Quentin Johnston on Monday Night Football is leaning towards out. He still has Saturday practice to get himself back into the active books, but it's just not trending that way right now with his ankle injury. McConkey's a bit banged up, but he's going to play, and DJ Chark could return for this game, but you don't really want to start any of the Chargers receivers, albeit in a great matchup against the Cardinals. it would be Ladd McConkey or bust for me. Maybe Josh Palmer could work himself back into the good graces of this offense, but we'll wait and see on that. It'd be McConkey. If Johnston plays, I would play him, but you're just not going to have that information, presumably, by the time you actually need to set lineups. Michael Pittman is questionable with a back injury. Who knows what's going on with him? He has lost his wide receiver one spot to Josh Downs anyway, who is on the injury report as well, but going to play ditto for Alec Pierce. Seems like he is going to play with Anthony Richardson back at quarterback this week. Jacoby Myers and his ankle injury is leaning towards being out for this game. He is doubtful to play. So Trey Tucker, when we get to the underdog picks in a little bit, I like him higher than his total. DJ Turner will run as the running wide receiver in the Raiders rotation as big dogs against a bad Rams offense, but they also have a bad quarterback playing who can't get anyone the ball. So none of them are great starts, but Trey Tucker would be my preferred option behind Brock Bowers, of course, of the Raiders receiving core. Dontavian Wicks might play. He was initially diagnosed as week to week with a shoulder injury, but now that Christian Watson is off the injury report, Reed is off the injury report, and Romeo Doubs is back playing, and Tucker Kraft is off the injury report, with Emmanuel Wilson, Josh Jacobs in the backfield as well, unless Wicks can break a big one in this game, health pending, then he's going to be absolutely useless to you. So I would just sit him down regardless of whether he's active or not. Elijah Moore, questionable to play for the Cleveland Browns. Deontay Johnson has an ankle injury, a hamstring injury, and a ribs injury, but he's questionable to play against the Commanders. I think that he is going to play. We'll know that early, so that's good news. If he's in, you play him. If not, I'll bump Leggett way up, and then Jalen Coker at $3,000 actually becomes a really nice play on DraftKings for the Stone Min if you're looking for someone, but I just assume that Deontay Johnson's going to play. I kind of think this is like a Devontae Adams situation where he's on the trade market. There's a lot of teams that are in the market for Deontay Johnson right now that the moment he gets traded, all these injuries just mysteriously go away, just like Devontae Adams and his hamstring injury, which is no longer a problem. He's going to be playing and starting and playing a full complement of snaps on Sunday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers against the Steelers. He's a top 20 wide receiver for the week. Juju Smith-Schuster is leaning in with this hamstring injury, and he's been banged up in practice. Andy Reid says he's good to go. There's still a chance that he's a last-second scratch, so keep an eye on him as he was a popular pickup this week and a very popular DFS play as well. Might be playing limited snaps. I just don't trust Juju. I have him outside of the top 40 because, listen, you want to start putting your faith in Juju Smith-Schuster. That's how you get hurt emotionally and financially if you put money on this sort of stuff. Marvin Harrison Jr. is leaning towards in on Monday Night Football. Michael Wilson is a bit banged up, but he should be good to go as well. I've inserted Marvin Harrison back into the rankings, but I put him a bit lower down because he hasn't been awesome so far this year. He is, again, in that Mike Evans, Tutu Atwell, Amari Cooper zone. I have him two spots ahead of Amari Cooper, one spot ahead of Mike Evans, just because we don't know about Mike Evans also on Monday Night Football as well. Malik Neighbors is going to be in. He's back inside the top 10 at wide receiver. Slayton has got the bump down. Zay Jones is leaning in for Arizona as well in his first game of the season, coming off suspension and his hamstring injury. Jordan Whittington has a shoulder. He is expected to play and probably going to play one more game in that Cooper Kupp role if Cooper Kupp cannot play against the Raiders. Olave missed the game with a concussion. He should be back next week for the Saints. Rashid Shaheed is likely out for the season after undergoing knee surgery. Tight ends, Dallas Goedert is out for the Eagles. Calcaterra. Eventually, I'll get that name down pretty well, but he's number 12 in the tight end rankings this week. If you need someone to go pick up and stream, he's your man this week, although we've seen him play in absence in a full game prep with Goddard out before and did absolutely nothing. Coming in like mid-game for Goddard seems to work out much better for him. Hayden Hurst is expected out with his groin injury. If you need a prayer, Will Disley, it will probably start for the Chargers on Monday night. You probably don't want anything to do with that. Tyler Conklin is expected to play with his hip injury on Sunday Night Football for the Jets. TJ Hawkinson looked like he was coming back to play in week number 7. That has gotten dicier as the week has gone along. He is a game time decision. I have removed him from the rankings because I think it's more likely that he's out than in. If he does play, hell, if you have a bad tight end, play him. If you have a good tight end, sit him down and see what he does. That's about as good as I can go on that one. Taysom Hill and his chest injury missed the game on Thursday night. He should return in week number 8, and Luke Musgrave remains on injured reserve. Finally, the quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson's going to start. Russell Wilson is likely to start on Sunday Night Football, and Drake Maye is expected to start with his knee injury in the London game very, very early on for the New England Patriots. For almost about 2 decades, the irons were really the only good part of my golf game, unless you include 300-yard drives, which meant hitting it about 150 yards straight and 150 yards with slice into the woods to the right. So I finally went and got lessons, straightened out my swing, and all of a sudden I could drive the ball pretty decently, pretty straight. And then my irons just kind of went wayward with the new compression that I was getting onto the ball. So it was time for me to make a change with my irons. So when I heard about the new PXG Black Ops irons and how they can dramatically improve my game, I had to give them a try. Booked a fitting with the PXG location, brought in my current irons, and took the PXG challenge. The staff was amazing. We worked on my ball flight through TrackMan in order to find the perfect irons and the perfect length and the perfect loft for what my game demands these days. And the new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit, they maximize performance, and they're fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That is a great price for a great golf iron. So take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy, during your fitting, you'll get a $250 MasterCards reward card. Hurry, this offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening? A new language? Or, for me personally, how to finally beat your best friend in golf? Not cuss, but, my other friends. I want to beat them at golf. I can beat cuss, no problem. Therapy can help reconnect you with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come, honestly, at any age. It's helpful learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries, and it empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major traumas. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All the best things that you need. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/PatMayo today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Already gave out the Sunday game for the Underdog Picks if you want to rewind and go back to the beginning, but if you missed it, I did say that there is a free pick for any new Underdog user. Using code Mayo, you get a free pick of Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football, so use that to your advantage this week. I got 5 other plays that you can go along with it. Again, code Mayo not only gets you that free pick of Aaron Rodgers if you're a new customer, but you also get a up to $1,000 deposit bonus on top of that. So let's roll with this. Here are the plays for week number 7. Jamar Chase lower than 10 targets. He's only gone over this number once so far this season. And in a game against the Browns where offense should be stymied a little bit, you probably don't need just to overload Jamar Chase in this situation. He can still do a ton of fantasy damage on fewer than 10 targets. So lower than 10 targets on Jamar Chase. Ditto for Terry McLaurin. Lower than 8.5 targets. They're big favorites in this game. They're going to run the ball a ton. If Carolina can't keep it competitive on the other side of the ball, you're just not going to see a ton of throwing in the second half for the Washington Commanders. So McLaurin, again, can do his fantasy damage on fewer than 8.5 targets. I'm going lower than that. And I'm going to take Jaden Daniels lower than 9.5 rushing attempts in the same game. They're probably just not going to need it. Now, if Carolina ends up being ultra competitive in this game, these two are absolutely screwed. But if everything goes to plan, they're 8.5 point favorites right now. I locked them in at -7.5 on the Tuesday spread show, so hopefully we got some line value on that. We did get line value. Hopefully it comes through. If you think that Washington absolutely annihilates Carolina, it seems counterintuitive to go with the lowers on these attempts and targets type plays, but that's where you want to be. You'll see some Noah Brown, some Zacchaeus, Jeremy McNichols, Austin Eckler, Diami Brown, Zach Ertz. They'll all get themselves involved in this game, so that's where you want to be. We'll go with the double lower and correlate those two together. The other two I'm going with, Trey Tucker, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, higher than 34.5 receiving yards. They're touchdown underdogs. Expect a lot of throwing and no Jacoby Myers. It might just take 1 or 2 for Tucker to get higher than the 34.5. And then finally, Kenneth Walker III in what projects to be one of the highest scoring games of the week. Higher than 14.65 fantasy points. The great thing about this is what we've seen the last few weeks with Kenneth Walker. And he's coming off an extended rest, playing last week on Thursday Night Football. So a full 10 days. So he can do it on the ground, and he's going to get all the goal line touches. That's great. But if they do fall behind to the Falcons in this game, we've seen the 2 highest target shares of his career come the past 2 weeks. He is no longer going to the sidelines and being benched for Charbonnet or Travis Homer or whatever random dude that they have on their team du jour to pass to. No, they're sticking Kenny Walker back out there, and they are throwing it to him. So up or down in this game, he is getting his volume. So higher than 14.65 fantasy points for Kenneth Walker. Those 5 picks by themselves in a regular play will get you 20-1 on your money. If you use code Mayo right now and add on the Aaron Rodgers free pick, you can get that up to 25-1, and it's a free pick. And you get flex outs for it as well, where if you go 5 of 6 with your picks, all of a sudden, you're still going to get 3 or 4 times your money on it. All right? So code Mayo at Underdog right now, okay? The complete DraftKings ownership breakdown and the top optimal and top pivot plays is going to be a part of the cheat sheet in the Saturday night newsletter powered by runthesims.com. But we'll have all that information a little later on. Of course, I did the full DraftKings show with Davis this week if you want to go check that out. But just in terms of ownership of what I'm seeing right now midway through Saturday for the main slate on Sunday. So that does not include the London game or the Sunday Night Football game, just the meat and potatoes, 1 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern games, if you were wondering on that. Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Bijan, and Kyron Williams are well above everyone else at the running back position, depending on the price point that everyone is going to. Those will probably end up coalescing as the 5 major players that we're going with. If you're looking for pay down options, there's not a ton. Sermon at $5,500. Some people are using Dare against at $4,300 against the Packers, presuming a catch-up spot for the Texans. But if that goes awry and the Texans get up in that game, it's going to be like 0 points. Would not recommend going to that route. But Sermon and Chase Brown are the $5,000 running backs. And listen, Chase Brown's $5,900. It's not like it's a cheap play as it is. Those are the players that everyone seems to be going to this week. So if you just kind of sort it and try to figure out who the pivots are going to be, you see Jordan Mason, he's too expensive at $7,600 with that injury concern to really go to. But if you have the money to waste or you're playing 150, you should more than definitely mix him in. James Cook is the interesting one. Projected 4% ownership at $7,000. Ray Davis is banged up. Obviously, he comes in with this toe injury, but was lifted off the injury report already. So it's a decent defense with Tennessee. They are big favorites in this game. If they decide just to turn the ball over to James Cook and give Ray Davis a rest, you could get a basically unowned James Cook in this situation in a big run-heavy spot. Ditto with Jahmyr Gibbs. If Detroit jumps out to a lead, and even if they don't, that's who they're going to be passing to. He comes in at like 5% ownership. David Montgomery at 2% ownership in one of the most high-powered offenses in football. So if everyone is just coalescing again around Kareem Hunt or Chase Brown or even Austin Eckler if Brian Thomas gets ruled out, and Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs in that low 6,000, high 5,000 area, there are some viable names that you could potentially go to in those spots just to get away from the chalk. Not that you have to go away from the chalk, but if you want to, there are high-end names with high-end upside in the situation right now. At receiver, we're looking at projected ownership. Drake London above all. Trey Tucker's getting a lot of steam at $4,200 now that Myers is probably going to be out. He's at 20%. Justin Jefferson at 20%. Juju at $4,000 is currently at 17, but this injury might knock him down. We'll see what this next run of projections after Saturday practice tells us. I'll have that information updated in the Saturday evening newsletter if you're looking for it. McLaurin, Neighbors, Deontay Johnson, Darnell Mooney. It does seem like most most people are stacking up the Carolina side of the, not the Carolina side of the ball, the Atlanta side of the ball in that Seahawks game. The move might actually be to flip that around. I know it's difficult to figure out because what we're seeing is Kirk, London, Mooney, Kirk and London with maybe Mooney, Ray, or Pitts running it back with Kenneth Walker. You can just flip that around. Geno's cheaper than Kirk. You go Geno, DK, and run it back with Bijan, or run it back with London. It doesn't need to be a running back on the other side, or even try to cheap out and go with Mooney in that spot and just do a skinny stack, or overload the Seahawks side of the ball and put JSN in there. Noah Fant is pretty cheap. Maybe it's a Lockett game. It's very difficult to pick the right people on the Seattle side of the ball outside of DK and Walker, but it does seem like that side is going to be way lower owned than anything else. The projections and the ownership also show a Washington onslaught coming. Even Noah Brown is trending up towards everything. So maybe the Carolina side of the ball ends up working out a little bit better, because right now there's a triple stack that projects out really highly in terms of ownership with Daniels, McLaurin, and Noah Brown, with either Chuba or Deontay Johnson coming back the other way. If you can finagle it around in the opposite side, or just target one of these games that's just more confusing. Minnesota and Detroit would be one of those games. Very high total, but no one seems to want a part of it. Kansas City and San Francisco, another high total. People are staying away from that game. And Houston and Green Bay, there are just too many options for people to actually decide between. But if you have a good feel for it or want to take a chance, these are all games with very similar totals that you can really mine some lower ownership out of on DraftKings this week. For tight end, the chalk is going to currently be Colby Parkinson, but that's assuming that Cooper Kupp is out. If Cooper Kupp plays, Parkinson's probably not a great play. Grant Calcaterra is projecting at 10%. I think he's going to be higher than that at $3,200. I'm playing him a ton just because he makes so much work this week. If a tight end is not a part of my stack, Calcaterra is where I'm going to. Other than him, Brock Bowers and David Njoku project out over 10% ownership this week on DraftKings. And then defensively, the Bengals, the Bills, and the Giants all project over 10%. I do like the Giants a lot at $2,500, but it seems like the world likes them a lot at $2,500, just with the amount of pressure that they're able to generate. They're at home. It's a closer-ish spread, and Jalen Hurts, no stranger to turning the ball over to the other team. Some of the actual defenses I do like if you're going to take a shot anywhere. I love the Commanders' defense, and everyone's if you're not stacking up Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, or that game, just use the Commanders' defense at $3,400, projecting at 1% ownership. All it takes for them to break this slate is to score a touchdown. And Jaden Daniels gets kept off the field. It's more in line with the Carolina side of the ball. This is how Washington gets up early. And then, listen, their pressure rate is super high. They're going to generate a lot of pressure on Andy Dalton and force some turnovers. No one wants to use them. The Bills are being, for $100 more, the Bills are projecting out 10 times their ownership. Don't do that. Use the Washington Commanders in that spot. So at the higher end, that's who I like. At the lower end, it's looking like we're going to see the Houston D at 4%. I'm scared that Jordan Love might absolutely annihilate this defense. But again, a lot like the Vikings, Washington, Houston is in the same bucket, that they just generate a ton of pressure. You want pressure versus passing attempts, and just let the chips fall where they may. At a very low price point, the Houston Texans at $2,600 could get Love to throw 3 picks. Love throws picks. Don't forget that. He's very good at throwing touchdowns, also very good at throwing picks at the same time. Just takes one to go back the other way. You saved a ton of money at defense and got on a defense that no one owns. So the Commanders are my favorite. Other than that, it is the Texans, then the Vikings in games that you should be targeting if you don't want to go to a cheap, chalky Giants defense. Once again, all of the cheat sheet information will be available in the Saturday evening newsletter, along with the underdog plays, the updated rankings, and the full injury report once more of that information comes out. And I'll have it updated again on Sunday. If you want to check back in with it, you can find that all down in the description right now once it is released. All right, smash the like while you're here, sub to the channel to get into that $500 draw, and use code Mayo at Underdog for a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 and an Aaron Rodgers free pick for new customers on Sunday Night Football. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!